Hi, and welcome to Studio 411. I'm your host, Larry Dasilva, and thank you for joining us. We've got another exciting show. Today we're going to explore culture of a different nature, not acting or music, but some European culture, for lack of a better phrase. And we've got a wonderful guest with us today who's a modern-day Renaissance native Italian lady, by all means, entrepreneur, teacher, author of Italian English language ebooks, and I'm going to pronounce it correctly, Mauro and Carla Bianchi's Trip to Italy. It's a series of 12 ebooks that has been written and recorded in English and, of course, Italian. Our guest, Lee DeMilo, is multilingual, obviously, and also works with corporate organizations as well as regular folks like you and I to kind of show them the language, but from a different standpoint, not so much a classroom setting, but kind of where they are enjoying the fruits of Italy in a total spectrum, both culturally, food-wise, as well as I'm sure some history thrown in as well. Everything short of taking them right to the Colosseum itself. So we welcome Lee DeMilo. Lee, thank you for joining us today.
Pleasure's mine.
Very good.
Thank you for having me.
And now, you were born and grew up in Italy. You spent the early part of your life there. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing.
San Lorenzello is a very lovely, tiny town in the province of Benevento, which is in the region Campania. My parents owned olive groves, so they made their own olive oil, wine. It's a very, very charming little place.
And we've got a couple of shots later. You'll tell us a little bit more once we get there. But now, again, tell me a little bit, because again, Europe, I'm sure there's certain things that are universal. Again, things like work ethic, values. Again, you know, from the conversations we've had off air and from reading up on you. Again, that's something you value quite a bit. Is not only the values of growing up in your homeland, but of course, you know, as I think even with my parents, whatever, work ethic. That's
absolutely.
That's a term that is not used as much as it used to be, at least not in this country.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think I struck a nerve. I think I actually hit on somebody who believes what I say, because sometimes people nowadays, they look at you like, work ethic, what's that? You know, just show up and get a paycheck. No, it's
no, we don't do too much on, you know, like I said, for the money in Italy. I grew up, for example, on my street, we knew each other. My neighbors were like a family. I used to call I used to call them uncles and aunts. Mm-hmm. If they needed something, I remember my parents used to tell us, you know, go help her out.
Sure.
And if they gave you like a quarter, for example, like a 50 lire at the time, when we used to have a lira instead of euro.
I was just going to say, now with the euro, that has changed.
Absolutely. Yeah. We wouldn't take the money. We wouldn't take money.
Now, do you find in the years since, because you've been in the country now for what, over 20 years?
33.
33
years, yes.
She came over when she was about
34.
6 months old. So
no, I was 25.
25.
I was 25.
Goodness. There you go. So, that's right, because you went to university there as well, and we'll touch
University
a little.
of Naples,
and
yes.
then continued your education here.
Yes.
But do you get back often or no?
No.
No.
Usually every 5 years I
Okay.
went back, and no.
But now in the let's say the last time you were there, I'm just curious. Because
2 years ago.
Oh, 2 years ago. Now, do you find that, let's say in your old village or neighborhoods or region, that a lot has changed? I mean, not just the money, but I mean, are people still, at least the new crop, are they a little not as old world as they used to be?
Some of the families that I used to know, they saw me growing up, they're the same. But we are having some changes, absolutely. Like illegal immigration there, it's also a very big issue.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I
even
mean,
small towns like mine.
But I mean, in terms of the way people interact with one another, do you find there's still a good bit of that there?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yeah, there's still a little
Now,
bit.
what's this rumor about pinching? I hear everybody always says pinching.
We don't
I was
pinch.
nervous when the show started. I thought I was going to get pinched, but no, not at all.
Actually, it does not happen in my town. Absolutely not. But it happened to me actually when the first time I went to Naples to college, and I got on the bus, and yes, I got pinched.
There you go.
I got pinched.
Now, a nicer way of greeting someone, a handshake. Now again, these are available. I'm sure they can go to to get more information, linguaecucina.com for more information. But again, this a series of ebooks, 12 if I'm correct, will kind of intersperse that. Now, each section talks a little bit about kind of indoctrinating a person who either may be thinking of going to Italy, or maybe having someone come here and maybe wants
Absolutely.
to impress them without coming across as the ugly American.
No, but see, my goal is to really teach Americans about formalities, because when you go to another country, especially to Europe, we are a little bit more formal.
Right.
So, but of course, once they learn that, everything is going to be easy.
Now, when I was a kid, I remember, and again, my parents were from Portugal, so again, different part of Europe, but again, a lot of the same values, a lot of the same traditions, we'll call it. I can remember, I get it now, but again, sometimes things were done a little more, how do I put it, hard, than maybe it should have been, but that's for another time. But you'd walk into a room, and if you were a kid, let's say 8 or 9, and you didn't address the people in the room, it was like, get out, go out and come back in again.
Absolutely.
Now it'd be like, kids would be like, well, he was here a minute ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
He left town, or he's on his phone, so
No.
that's for another show. But anyway, a scene from a region, perhaps where you grew up.
San Lorenzello, il Ponte, the bridge.
Yeah.
Actually, we have a river called, it's a brook, Titerno, and then you see the beautiful mountain, Mount Urbano, which is rich of medicinal herbs.
Okay.
You can make a great, healthful teas, actually.
There you go.
Make you feel better, honestly.
And as we'll touch on a little bit later, certainly one of the things that led Lee to doing what she's doing now with Lingua e Cucina, again, was some health issues that she had when she came to this country. So I bet you then you were probably saying, I wish I had some of those herbs,
Yes.
You
know what I remember right now, for example? Growing up, my grandfather used to go on the mountain. I used to pick oregano, fresh oregano. And right now, when I think of Mount Urbano, I can kind of like smell the fragrance of that fresh oregano. It's every morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, used to go and pick a fresh oregano.
See, right now I'm having a strange scent of that wine that's to my left. So it's little might be a little better than oregano, but again, that's to each his own. You said before you came to America, so I'm going to say probably mid to late 80s?
82.
82, okay.
1982. I did not speak English.
Wow. Now, how did that come about? Again, I had cousins that came over, and in those days, again, this is a kind of different time, even in the 60s and 70s, and they would go to night school. In this country. How was your thing?
Well, I was working with the Italian community, radio broadcasting.
Okay.
And so I needed to work.
Yeah.
So it took me a little while to go back to school, which I did in New Haven first. And then in 4 years, I earned 3 degrees, actually. A bachelor degree at Quinnipiac University, and 2 previously, of course, at Gateway in New Haven.
Oh, in New Haven, okay.
Yes, in New Haven.
And
So
all that while you were working? And
yes.
Wow.
So 4 years, 3 degrees, I think, magna cum laude, and the honors, high honors, dean student list or whatever. So I was really serious about getting my degrees. I was kind of like catching up with time, you know. So.
And tell me a little bit again. Now you came over. Was family here? Did they they used to bring people over, or you just came on your own?
No, actually, it happened because someone wanted to marry me. My first husband, actually, he was Italian American. He was a journalist.
Okay.
And he owned a radio station, actually.
Wow.
I met him in Italy.
Where was he when I needed a job? I was out of radio by the mid-'80s. Oh, I wish I knew Lee back then. She could have hooked me up there.
Actually, I didn't want to come here. I really didn't want to come here. I didn't want to get married.
Wow.
I grew up with that idea that I never wanted to get married. Then instead I got married. He passed away in '97. And then I found a wonderful man. And so I got a second chance in life. And
sure, absolutely. You don't want to be like, even in my culture, you know, growing up with folks that, again, were from the old country, as they used to say, you know, when someone passed right away, you know, all black, you know, you look like the grandmother from, you know, a big fat Greek wedding. You know, everybody goes into seclusion. It's like, life is too rich to not enjoy. You know,
May I share a secret with you?
Sure.
I love being married, actually.
There you go, yeah, there you go.
So I was very silly, I guess, thinking that I would never get married.
Well,
it's
we all say that, right? My executive producer, I said, oh, I'd never get married after the first time. And then, you know what, so, as I've said on the show before, redheads are my Achilles heel. So that, thank goodness Lee is married and not a redhead. Otherwise, who knows what would go on here. But anyway. But no, that's great that you know, things worked out. And again, you always have to, no matter what. And I say this to myself all the time. No matter what kind of you know, pitfalls we go through in life. You know, some people just kind of shut down, and and maybe, you know, again, that's their prerogative. Sometimes things happen; they can't be helped. But you know, you just have to keep, as I always say, you just keep the head down and maybe up a little bit so you don't miss an opportunity. But just keep moving forward and you know, just go from there. Yeah. So that's good. And look where you are now. Look at that.
You know, this is my home. That's what I told myself the first time I went back to Italy after 5 years. Like I said before, I didn't want to come here. But 5 years later, the first time I went back home, 2 weeks there, and I felt like I got to go back home. This home. Yeah. So I'm so grateful for the wonderful opportunities that this country really has given me, and the life that I'm sharing now with my husband, and a life that probably I'm sure I would never had in Italy.
And look at the you know, the cultural joy and education that you're bringing to not only corporate America, but also to your many students, of which, you know, I saw some of the clips again that just are you know, benefiting. Now to go back here, Lorenzello, is that how you?
San Lorenzello.
Yeah.
It means Saint Little Lawrence.
Okay.
That's what it means.
And the something ceramic.
Città della Ceramica means a town of pottery.
Okay.
We make pottery.
All right, there you go. So
we have, it's a town, you know, rich of artists, poets, you know, it's incredible.
Now, once you were here, again, did you ever experience, again, the term used here is like culture shock? You know, was there a lot of adjusting that you felt you had to do, or were you just kind of poured yourself into your studies? And
here, oh no, I had to. Actually, I'm pretty good in kind of like, you know, adjusting to any environment. I'm pretty good at that, actually.
But initially, you were like, you know, I want to go home. It's a
no.
But
when I went back to Italy, for example, like I said, there was a thing. If you were at a bank,
right,
and you have to really respect the line. When in Italy, I remember after I went back, I was like, I was in the bank, and the people were kind of like doing their own transaction, you know, like behind me. I was like, hello. I'm here first, you know. And then by the time I got to the window, sorry, we're closed. Oh. So that bothered me. I said, you know what? This is in America. It does not happen.
Yeah, well, so, I don't know.
I don't know, but
don't ask Oprah that. She was at a big store in London a few years ago, and all of a sudden they were like, we're closed. And you know what? she got all upset because, you know, Oprah, you know. So
well.
you have to just stamp your feet and say, hey, Lee, you know.
Yeah, well.
I'm very important in America. You have to stay open. But,
Yeah,
you know,
but like I said.
I kid. Lee DeMilo joining us here on Studio 411 for the hour, linguaycucina.com, which, if my notes are correct, translates loosely into language and cooking. So now, how do you say the word kitchen?
Cucina. Cucina means kitchen, cooking, and cuisine.
Okay, so I was correct. That's
All three of
what
them.
threw me at first. We missed one of the other ones. I forget what number 2 was, but here's talking about banking. One of the chapters or e-books in the series again that deals with basics that you need to know when, of course, in Italy or in Europe for that matter, especially now with the euro, money exchange, number, time, phone calls again. You know, so again, some of those words again, I are, how do I describe it? Are similar to, let's say, Portuguese. So I kind of you get a little like cambio and some of the other ones.
I can understand a lot of Spanish.
Yeah.
Because of my Italian.
Yeah.
Yes.
My wife is fluent in both French and Spanish. So again, same thing. She kind of, you know, you pick up different things. Even I'm sure with the Italian.
One thing that I would like to mention, Larry,
Sure.
is that my ebooks, they're not just about learning a language, but I really create scenarios for students.
Sure.
So it's not just about learning. For example, if you're at a restaurant and you decided to go to one of these small family type of restaurants outside, in a small town, there's a chance they don't get a credit card. They don't take a credit cards, and they don't give you the menu, and they don't give you the check.
Oh, no menu.
No, they just come to you and they say, we have this today.
Or it's on perhaps a board of some kind.
It's just like a family type of restaurant. And so I created scenarios for students because I know if you're on a tour, but everything is in English. But if you really want to learn about the Italian culture, I think you really needed to immerse yourself in it. So the one day off that you have from the tour and you want to kind of like experience this lifestyle of Italians on your own, I think that's the best experience you can get. So and I created scenarios.
No knock against the tour agencies, but you yourself, for instance, if you were to go, and perhaps you have to go to another country that perhaps you have not been to, let's say, for instance, you went to China or Greece, you would rather go, you and your husband would rather kind of do it on your own as opposed to the, everybody get in the bus like a herd of cattle and But at the same time, in that case, you would immerse yourself into the culture and the language. The key is finding a situation like Lingua Cucina.
For example, students of mine ask me, I have allergies, so what do I do? Or how do I say this? Also, for example, I was mentioning before, suppose after a great meal, you ask for the check and then you give the credit cards and they don't take it, and now you don't have enough money to pay for it. I mean, what do you do?
Start washing dishes.
No, you don't do that in Italy. What I'm trying to say, I create all sorts of scenarios so they know how to handle it. So it's not just about, may I have a glass of red wine or house wine or, an extra dish or anything like that. Absolutely not. It's more than that.
And now through the adventures of Mauro and Carla, they kind of, give you a heads up on things you may need to know or need to know how to do.
And what's nice about it, being an audiobook, actually, you can kind of like, stop, rewind it, go faster, and repeat it, be part of that conversation. So you really can assume different roles.
Sure.
Not just Mauro and Carla, because Mauro and Carla have also other guests, other friends they go out with. So you can immerse in different roles.
There you go. A shot that I liked, this is from, I assume, a village like yours or perhaps yours.
Actually, that's San Lorenzello, via Pasquale Massone. At the corner, it's the elementary school where I used to go.
Yeah, and now that is for an upcoming celebration of
In June, there is a Corpus Domini.
Okay.
And so we are Catholic, of course, and this is a special time for me that I remember growing up. I used to do the same thing. So all the kids, in the street, we used to kind of like compete and become artists for that day. So we kind of like used to rate them.
Sure.
Yeah.
There you go. There's another chapter or section of the series, again, at the hotel. Again, obviously important to make sure you not only get to the right hotel, but you don't wind up in the servants' quarters.
Actually, those are pictures that I took when my husband and I went to Italy on our own honeymoon.
Oh, really?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah, I noticed that I saw the
palace over there in Florence, and I remember those were the stairs that we took. Look at the art in there. It's absolutely magnificent. And look at that room there. I mean, and that was our bedroom. We could see the Duomo from our window. Now, for
someone who wants to go to Italy, again, are there like so many parts in Europe? There used to be very popular hostels, or I guess what we would consider almost like a bed and breakfast, but I'm sure on a lesser.
La Pensione.
Yeah.
It's called the La Pensione.
Not as opulent, perhaps, as bed and breakfast here, but still a roof over your head. And then, of course, as you mentioned, you have hotels that I'm sure are not necessarily chain hotels. Is there a lot of Western influence there? Like you have Holiday Inns and the Hiltons?
Actually, there are a lot of Americans now.
Yeah, yeah. But when you were growing up, it was more
all Italian.
More the all Italian. There you go.
Yeah. One thing that actually I showed a picture once to my students about a bathroom, Italian bathroom, and they saw a little sink and they didn't know what it was. And I said, what you wash your feet in it? Well, let's say we call it bidet, and do some research on it, and then you tell me what it is.
Okay.
So it was really funny.
There you go.
Yeah.
Lee DeMilo, linguaecucina.com, and joining us here for the hour on Studio 411. And again, immersing our viewers today in culture, not just, of course, Italy, the main focus, but again, kind of give you a little bit of an inkling on what a trip or experience in that part of the world would be. There's Lee right there, see, and whipping something up, and probably in the middle of one of her classes. So one other thing too, again, now the whole concept of lingua e cucina, again, came as a result of an unfortunate time in your life where then you became ill. And if you don't mind, share a little bit about all that went on, and then thankfully, not only health-wise but success-wise, it led to what you're doing now. So,
my husband and I moved to Norwalk, to this historic home, and we lived in the house while we were renovating it. And I got an allergy to sheetrock.
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 Yeah.
Sheetrock dust, and was very detrimental to my lungs and my connective tissues. So I quit my job in sales, and I could barely walk. My husband was very close to me it was a full year where, from one doctor to another, even to New York. And nobody really did anything for me, no doctors.
Right.
No. But 11 months later, my husband told me, he gave me a little brown bag with a piece of sheetrock in it, and he told me, I want you to tell the doctor, test me on this, and that's it.
Oh, so at that point, all those months later,
11 months.
There was no connection to the sheetrock.
Doctors were testing me for the wrong. They were doing the wrong test. They were testing me for regular dust, never for sheetrock dust.
Gotcha.
That's what happened. So they kind of like they didn't listen.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
That's what happened, really. So I did a lung biopsy, and of course, so they put me on what I call evil medication, which is prednisone.
Prednisone, yes, a favorite of many that I know. Unfortunately, yeah.
I started writing notes on what was happening to me. It's not just your body changes, but also your personality
Absolutely,
changes.
yeah.
And those notes actually became the basis for my memoir.
There you go.
So
Yeah.
I started writing a memoir on that.
To quote someone near and dear to me who has said, it's amazing even all these years after what happened to you, of course we didn't know each other then, but even from that point in time to now, the quote was, you would think they would come up with something better to give to whether it's bronchitis or whatever other things it's dispensed for, than this drug, which again, everyone I've ever known who's been on it, it's a steroid in a sense, it is, and it just plays havoc with, as you said, not only your body but also your personality.
My belief is this. Probably there was a reason why. Maybe whatever the reason is. I feel that maybe I needed to learn certain lessons the hard way. That's what I really believe.
Sure.
And which I did after that. But I don't blame the doctors. I don't blame anybody, which I did at the beginning. I blamed the doctors. I blamed everybody, and including myself. But then it's like a stage. You go through stages, and you mature, during this stage. And so you are given a second chance. That's what I feel it was, I went through. I was given a second chance in life, and I needed to make a difference, not only in my life, but also maybe in somebody else's life.
Sure.
People that maybe, I met through, on my path along the way.
Now, there was a section that I had researched on you, again, as far as the healing process. Talk a little bit about, again, you never know who this is going to touch. The old saying, even if it helps one person because of some of the similarities and things they may be going through. But you talk about some of the healing, again, or the switch to organic foods. Help me with the pronunciation here. You got involved with a Japanese healing technique.
Usui Reiki.
How do you pronounce it?
Usui.
Usui.
Usui Reiki.
Okay. And tell me a little bit about...
It's not just that, but it's like a bunch of other therapies, like a heart math, heart and mathematics. It's a science, actually. It's not a voodoo. Some people, when you tell them it's about energy work, they kind of like, what is that? No, it's a science actually behind that. Yes, I discovered Usui Reiki when I was really, at the bottom. I reached the bottom. I was told by the doctors that they didn't know if I was going to make it. Okay, and I was mad at God. Honestly, I had a spiritual crisis. I told you before, I'm Catholic here. But one day when I saw myself, I really got angry at God, only to find out later that it was not his fault.
Right.
It was not. So there is no one day that goes by that I don't ask God to forgive me for just blaming him at that moment. The healing had to happen within my soul, within my inner self. And one of the lessons that I really needed to learn was really to find my inner self, to get in touch with it. Because I realized that at that point in my life, I forgot who I was. I almost didn't know who I was anymore. So that's what I'm saying. Maybe one lesson I needed to learn was to find myself. And I did.
Do you think that a lot of us in life, not just yourself, but people, again, you wouldn't necessarily know, but that people all go through, not because of an illness, but for different reasons. They just have a trouble. I think it's true that people just don't know where their center is, you know, and I know there people do different things,
think
yoga, therapies, all sorts of stuff.
That's why, like, for example, with my teaching, I tell students, learn about the lifestyle of another country, like Italy. Okay, for example, Italians, they love a little bit in an easier lifestyle, like lay back a little bit. Enjoy your wine even before dinner with your other half. You don't have to rush after work, making dinner or whatever, and then forgetting that you are living that moment right there. So sit down, enjoy yourself, enjoy each other's company, enjoy a glass of wine, and enjoy life a little bit more. Really.
I find, and I've said this to people I know and also here on the air, when I was 30 years ago, I think, I don't know how I existed, because now life is so, and I'm not a person that's into, the texting and the this and that, and I mean, someone will say, oh, you spend a lot of time on the computer. Well, I'm doing it for different reasons, not just, endlessly playing, whatever video games, which I guess serve some purpose, but I think, to excess is definitely a problem in this country. But I just think, I look back and I'm like, I don't know how I did it, because again, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, life seems so much simpler. Now, you always feel like you can never catch your breath, and I don't know if I'm expressing myself the right way. So, and you just have to keep reminding yourself, you know what, whether it's sometimes, like I had a guest on who said to me privately, said, sometimes I just have to learn how to say no.
Another lesson that I had to learn, how to say no.
See, and Lee didn't say no when I called her, so that was mistake number one. If she had to do it again, oh well, but no, I kid. But no, it's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And they just say, turn this off, turn that. Unfortunately, I think sometimes, and I'm not sure why, we also live in a culture in this country, and I'll be honest, I'm guilty of this as well. Once you're home, you don't even want to answer the door. And this ties in with like the way in this country, people in the old days, I'm going back to 30s, 40s, I wasn't around then, but from what you see and read about movies, I know you would think I was from that era, but no, I only look 35. But anyway, people would sit on their porch. Again, very much like the old world. People knew who you were. Now, I couldn't tell you who that person is. I couldn't tell you. Yeah. And again, I don't know.
I'll tell you a funny story, Larry. I was at, I believe, 16 years old. And of course, it's the age when, boys like girls and vice versa, sure. Right? And I remember that there was a guy who was courting me. And he was on a motorcycle going up and down the street. And suddenly, and I was walking home, and one of my neighbors, I gotta tell you, came downstairs. He told the boy to leave me alone and to never come into the street again. This was my neighbor, it was not my family. So very protected.
They looked out for you, yeah. I don't know that that's the case.
I don't think it happens here, in my street at least.
And part of it too is because people are almost afraid. I give you, for instance, I was, as a kid, what they called in this country a dreaded latchkey child. I had a mother who worked second shift for many years, later first, but when I was a kid, but then there was usually times where an hour or two, where today, my goodness, they'd be calling DCF because, well, one parent was not home from work and the other one, so being an only kid, you had no choice but to, and I think it's made me better for who I am in some ways. Others would tell you differently, but anyway. But, when I was 8, I knew every bus route in the city I lived in. Now it's like, oh, they can't go by themselves. They can't do this.
What I felt was a sense of belonging. Mm-hmm. You not only belong to that family, you belong to the neighborhood, you belong to the town, a sense of belonging. Yeah. I miss that about Italy, honestly. I don't find that here. I really don't.
Yeah.
You work hard at that. to having friends and to have, good neighbors. But you work hard at that.
Yeah, and
But you
because people are stressed out, people
Yeah.
are whatever. They may loosen up, to coin a phrase, but sometimes the loosing it goes too far the other way. You know, that we have dependencies and issues and addictions and things, and people just, and again, they don't know. And I think that helped me, that growing up in a quote, we used to call it Little Lisbon in my parents' home, but it instilled a certain thing in you that doesn't mean I'm perfect by any stretch. He coughs. But anyway, but the point was that you I think are able to withstand certain things better. I'm happy, like for instance, growing up when I did, I wouldn't want to be that age growing up now. I know all this technology and all this and that, and you just have people that don't even like, they just cross paths, they don't even look up at you, and that's fine, 'cause
But I try actually to convey this to my students, and it's so beautiful. I love Lingua Cucina for a million reasons, but one of them is it gives me the opportunity to witness students becoming friends. They come, for example, to my classes, they bring wine. They bring a particular wine of a particular region, food of a particular region. That's how we learn. But when they come in, they're all friends. They didn't know each other before. Now they're all friends. They speak Italian. They know where the dishes are, where the glasses are. And the beauty of that is that they conversate in Italian. It's like, would you like white or red this evening? And doing things together. Like I said, it's not just about learning the language. It's a beautiful friendship, interaction that I witness. And to me, it's like, it's not about money. It's not about, the business. Sometimes it's about that.
Sure.
Makes me proud of what I'm doing, happy. And it gives me a purpose in life. And I guess that's what I found through, all the bad years of illness, whatever. But here I am. I'm like, whatever I did learn, I learned that. I learned that, fine. But now I enjoy every minute of what I'm doing, really.
And this, as we said in the intro, this is all, again, the fruits of, unfortunately, the suffering for a prolonged period of time that you had to go through. But then, again, as you said, life, God, religion, whatever circumstances, depending on what you believe, steer you in hopefully a positive direction. And that's good. Here's a photo that I like. That is, I don't know that Lee would necessarily serve that, but I just like the presentation. I just think that's, I'll give you another one too. In my family's culture, if someone showed up, obviously, because it wasn't going to start the pots and pans going, but my parents would immediately pick up the phone and order a couple of pizzas or order food to bring in, or there was something to fire up the grill. People would show up unexpectedly sometimes, and they were friends or family. Now,
we didn't have the phone actually growing up. And when people happened to be home, my mother used to have, those big loaf of breads like that.
Sure.
And she used to cut the prosciutto, salami, or soppressata, formaggio, cheese, right on top of the piece of bread. Oh my God, to die for. To die for.
But I'm saying people like
exquisite.
They went out of their way. I mean, I'll give you for the viewers a little tidbit behind the scenes. Lee shows up. She's honoring me along with her husband Frank by coming in and doing the show with us, and she's bringing me this and bringing that for the crew. I mean, this is again, other people be like, well, let's get this over with.
No.
So it's again, that's that European culture that that is prevalent, which is great. These folks here, again, this is an example of some students, perhaps?
Students, yes. I take students out to an Italian restaurant. We have our class over there, our exam, but also they have the opportunity to interact in Italian with the chef or the waiter or whatever.
Nice.
So it's
and now the classes span how long of a period? 6 weeks?
10 sessions. I like, there should be 10 hours, but we always go, every, a little bit over. But students like a regular. After the 10 sessions are done, they are for another 10 sessions, another
Sure.
10 sessions, because they really enjoy. I don't think you find, at least I'm not aware of, classes where they do what I'm doing, teaching Italian, the Italian language with the culture, with the food. And it is a wonderful atmosphere.
Not only
I
that,
don't think so.
it's a situation where no one is inherently looking at the clock, saying,
No,
okay,
no.
okay, therapy session's over.
No.
You're doing it again with not only a business motif in mind, but also, the love of what you're doing. Now, tell me a little bit about now when you do it for corporations or businesses. Again, as I said earlier, it's to perhaps make them a little more smoother around the edges, because whether it's France or China or whatever, obviously they have to use other means. But for Italy, you're trying to make these group of business people, salespeople, the like, a little bit more, as I said, not the ugly American, to kind of make them feel like, okay,
Americans are not ugly.
No. It's a term of sometimes people that, even in business, they show up in a foreign land and they just expect everything to kind of be handed to them. What you're doing is educating them on not only the culture, the language, so that they do a presentation that's going to impress. Because again, they think sometimes, this is my opinion, that just by showing up, regardless of how big the company is, they're just going to, they're going to toss the business our way. It doesn't work like that.
Now, the thing is that, Italy, it's a booth. However, I say that we have 4 Italys. Northern Italy, Central Italy, Southern Italy, and then the island of Sicily and Sardinia.
Gotcha.
So there are 4 Italia. So we have differences, cultural differences within Italy itself. So for example, in the Northern Italy, let's take a food, okay? Food is like you eat a lot of butter. They use butter, creamy sauce, okay, more than anything. Cow cheese, of course. If you go a little bit in the central Italy, you start eating goat cheese, sheep cheese, like in the southern Italy. And then instead of butter, we use olive oil, fresh herbs like basil, prezzemolo, like parsley, all that stuff. And wines, we make our own wine, wherever you go, really, okay? If you take Sicily and Sardinia, oh my God, they are so different. It's like Sicily, almost the Sicilians say we are not Italians, we are Sicilians, But every part of Italy, doesn't matter if you're talking about northern through, the islands, is so unique and so much to explore and to learn about it. It's fascinating.
And you obviously try to give the potential future tourists,
exactly,
the ones that take the class on a personal level, you give them the heads up that just like in this country, if you go to the west or down to the deep south, be conscious of, you may know the language, but be conscious of the different
the traditions of the the customs and all that stuff. Even with business, for example, I know northern Italy is more like a business. It's industrial, okay, more industrial than southern, but business is done a little bit differently, okay. So it's a little bit more formal than southern Italy. So we are less formal in southern Italy.
Now look, here's a photo. Now imagine, I don't even know what else is going on in this picture. Can you imagine the delicacies that are here? And this may just be like one class, or maybe at the end they're doing a little celebrating, and then you put in the wine. Oh my goodness, this is like no class I ever took in college. Let me tell you. That's great. That's great. Lee DeMilo joining us here for the hour on Studio 411. For more information, linguaicucina.com. Lee, of course, former radio broadcaster in Italy, restaurateur, now in a multilingual corporate Italian language trainer. a series. Oh, we even talk about business etiquette in Italy. I'm sure she covers all the bases. As I said, it's important, especially for those business types, because you are providing a service that I have no doubt on a business level has to pay so many dividends to corporate types, because you are instructing them on what they need to do, say, avoid, and make a good presentation.
Actually, my first phone call was from an American company, marketing company here. And I was told I have a strange request. We are promoting an Italian product in this country, and we would like to train our sales force.
Sure.
Not only about a little bit of the language, but about being a little bit act like Italians. So I had a lot of fun with that. I wrote the script with the audio, but also I did the role plays. There were many, probably 50 salespeople from all over the United States coming here.
Wow.
Yes, and it was a lot of fun. That was my first project.
And the first thing she taught them was thank you and goodbye. Or thank you and please sign on the dotted line. There you go. Sign that contract. How do you say contract in
Contratto.
Okay, very, very good. Very
You
good.
know what? A handshake is much better than a signature.
I know, I saw that about you now, about not just you, but that's your culture feels that way. Is
Absolutely.
that
If I shake hands with you, that's my word on it.
there you go. Well, and again, that is something that there's so much, and I understand it has to be to a certain degree, but what I grew up at least believing the same thing, handshake, a person's word, boy, now it's like you better get a legal document, because unfortunately it's not you or I, it's other people or other,
I know.
whatever, Americana that have ruined that, and I know I've gotten burned when I haven't had something, a verbal agreement, and it's like, oh, I didn't say that or this, that. Well, there you go. That's the handshake, the word, or the 3 hours of talking back and forth. Where did we get the wrong impression? But that's that's the way of the world today. So, but I agree with you 1,000%. Here's again. Educate me as far as Italian delicacies. Obviously, my favorite, the cannoli. Of course, I could eat those until I would probably have clogged arteries. But give me some other ones.
Actually, do you know that I learned how to eat sweets when I met my husband Frank?
Yeah.
So it passed 18 years. Growing up, I remember my family. My mother did not bake. It was very rarely that she baked something. But on special occasions, we would get, dessert, cannolis, sfogliatelle, whatever, at the bakery, at the local bakery. But had to be a special occasion. So if we had the sweets maybe 3-4 times in a year, that was it. So we didn't grow up on sugar.
No. And now you've told me again off air that obviously you've adjusted your eating habits, et cetera, as a result of the autoimmune illness that you have or now suffer with, I guess, for lack of a better word. But again, have you found that it's made it harder for you to impart, all the cultural cuisines, because you're like, well, yeah, go ahead, enjoy. I can't touch it.
No, actually, I modify my recipes. So, for example, instead of using regular flour, I use rice flour.
Okay.
Or my beautiful cheesecake, I use a goat cheese. I'm allergic to dairy, for example.
Okay.
So I use a goat cheese and a little bit of honey. And it's great, and like a lemon custard.
Because you were telling me, was it cheesecake, or what was it you were telling me where you used the goat cheese and the cream? No, not cream cheese.
No, just a goat cheese and a lemon curd, just a goat butter, and fresh lemon, organic lemon.
And very limited on sugar.
No, I didn't use the sugar at all. I use a little
I'm saying
bit.
in your own personal eating.
I use a little bit of a honey, which is a local honey, actually.
Yeah.
And it's really don't need sugar. But of course, we all deviate. We all, when we see sweets, of course, we enjoy it and, said, okay, but we shouldn't do that, right? We shouldn't do that.
Again,
But
we all have
we
our
all like dessert.
we
you know?
all have our vices.
It's very sinful. Dessert is sinful. Yes.
We always ask guests in our remaining moments here on Studio 411, our guest Lee DeMilo, linguaicucina.com for more information. Who has influenced you outside of your field?
It's a hard question. Maybe my mother.
Okay.
My mother was a strong woman. She had 10 kids.
Wow.
Yes. She passed away 2 years ago. She was 82. My father was 90. I don't know. She, I guess, instilled in me a lot of this, that I could do anything that I wanted to. I could do it. I wanted to do it. I think
There
so.
you
You know,
Sure. And
maybe she didn't know that, but probably that's what I feel.
any suggestions for the rest of us as far as living healthy and keeping the weight off? Because again, obviously all this rich food and great food, sometimes people can, we all have our vices that we indulge too much.
I think enjoy life, but also get to know the other person and enjoy the other person, because every person has a lot of goodness. And we tend to look at all the best stuff about that person. It's very hard. It's a very hard thing to do. Still for me today, it's still hard.
Sure.
But I think if we enjoy ourselves and the company of the other person, enjoy life a little bit more, will be a much better world, I think.
Now, we only got a couple of minutes left. Real quick, either in Italian or in English, favorite word?
Oh, andiamo?
Which translates into let's get going?
Yes.
That's her favorite word, huh?
No.
I think she must say that to her husband a lot. Let's get going. Oh, my goodness. All right. No, I was looking for another word, but we'll go with that. Write that down. Okay. Lee DeMilo, who is the mastermind behind linguaicucina.com. Again, you've seen Lee featured in Connecticut Magazine. Again, for more information, linguaicucina.com, which stands for Language and Cooking. The book series or ebook series. Let's see, I have to read it. They have it, Carla and Mauro, but it's really Mauro and Carla Bianchi's Trip to Italy, which again is kind of fictitious characters voiced by several people and their encounters and learning about the culture and the food and the mannerisms and the ways of the Italian culture. And again, just great to have you here with us, and
Pleasure.
we look forward to having you back on. All right?
Pleasure.
Thank you. Larry Dasilva, thanking you out there for joining us on this episode of Studio 411. We hope you enjoyed joining us for the hour, and we look forward to seeing you again next time here on the program. For now, have a great week.